So the fight is on. Hafthor Bjornsson versus Eddie Hall. Finally, it's happening. There's a date. We have something to look forward to. It's been so long. So let's start this. Let's just talk a little bit about each fighter and have a look at some of their training footage and some of their stats. So going in, Eddie Hall's 190 centimeters, the shorter of the two, 163 kilograms, I reckon. Anywhere from 160 to 165, in that range probably, but probably closer to 160. So that's about 360 pounds, give or take 5. 34 years of age, so he's a little bit older than Hafthor, but not by much. And going in, he is the underdog at the bookies. So, but Eddie's always been the underdog, so that's not going to affect him mentally. So let's have a look at his transformation. On the left here, that's Eddie over 200 kilograms there. Definitely looking humongous. And on the right here, it was quite a recent shot. I mean, what a weight transformation, incredible transformation to go from that to that, two extremes. But still looking big, muscular, ripped. And this is some of his sparring footage. Very interesting to cross-compare this against Hafthor, which we'll do later. You can see that Eddie's a little bit clumsy in his footwork, in all fairness, when you compare it to the likes of Hafthor. But he's very explosive, and he's definitely quite quick at dodging punches. That's one thing for sure. But a little bit sloppy in the footwork. It does look a little bit... He just looks a little bit static and slow. Going into this fight, I don't think it's not quite what I was expecting. But then we look at him doing some bag work, training on the bag. I mean, the power of these punches, it just reminds me of the sort of Mike Tyson, that explosive strength. It really is incredibly impressive, and especially when you compare it against Hafthor when he was doing some bag work. So really, quite honestly, his best bet and strategy going into this fight is just to knock the shit out of Hafthor Bjornsson in the first couple of rounds, KO him in the first couple of rounds, just channel that explosive, natural, gifted strength that he has, and just land some heavy blows Mike Tyson style and just put him on the floor. Because I don't know if Eddie's really going to be able to keep it up for the full fight, to finish all rounds. I don't know if he's quite got that stamina and that strength, especially considering Eddie not only has recently teared his bicep, but he is carrying a lot of injuries from the strongman days that he's played down in recent years. But you know, that last Britain's Strongest Man he did, he was just a mess. Dislocated hip, I believe he dislocated his hip, where to the point where he had to be on like a walker, and he couldn't walk properly. He also, before the Europe's Strongest Man, the last one he did, he damaged his ankle, something like that, when he was training. I mean, he's carried so many injuries. He's dropped things on his head, damaged vertebrae. I mean, so many injuries that way he will be carrying into this fight. And whether that plays a part in it is another thing. I mean, we don't know. This is his first proper real fight. Unlike Thor, he hasn't done any show or exhibit fights or anything like that. So we don't really know. I'm sure he's done it with his training partners. So that's still yet unknown. But the power of those punches, I just hate to be that person receiving those punches. And the same here when he's just sparring with this guy. Just so explosive, the strength. Probably why he tore his bicep, because he lands such powerful punches. But again, I mean, just turn to his footwork and his movement, it's quite sloppy and slow, especially when you compare it to Hafthor, who's just far more agile and dynamic and just moves better than Eddie. But again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'll talk about what I think is going to happen at the end of the video, but it's just good to watch some of this footage. I mean, if Eddie could do something like that, get Hafthor pinned in the corner and just land some heavy blows, that would just be brilliant. But whether he'll be able to do that with Hafthor being quite tall, quite big, and definitely in better conditioning than Eddie, will be another thing. So let's have a look at some of his resistance training. He's doing some heavy box squats with the safety bar here. So clearly he hasn't lost all that strength, probably about 40-50% of his strongman day strength. But it's good to see that he's still keeping up the resistance training. I'm not sure what the hell this is. I think it's meant to be power cleans, but please don't try that at home, because what he's doing is just so unbelievably wrong. But not surprising, considering he's never done any Olympic lifting or anything like that. So here's an incline bench press, 195 kilograms, which is way above the average human being would be able to do. But in all fairness, this was pretty weak from Eddie. I mean, for me, for most people watching this video, that would be fucking impressive. But for Eddie, that is not good. This would have been a warm-up for him before, in the old days, in 2015, 2017, 18. It would have been a warm-up. It would have been, no way in hell would he have put, you know, the safety sleeves out, these safety arms out. So not only does it show that he really lacks confidence in that resistance training, because he's got these safety sleeves, safety arms, whatever you call them, out. I've never seen him use that in all the training footage. In all the years I've watched him, I've never ever seen him use that for any pressing exercise or squat. He always was 100% confident that, hey, I'm doing 8 reps, I don't need any spotters, I don't need any safety bars or any shit like that. I'm doing it, it's done, it's dusted. So it's interesting just to see that. But he does a lot of, you know, conditioning and cardio work. We see him online doing lots of runs with his dogs. Thor, going into the fight, he is the favourite. He's 206 centimetres, much taller than Eddie. He's lighter than Eddie, so he's probably about anywhere from 148 to 150 kilograms, so about 328 pounds, give or take, you know, 3 to 5 pounds. And a little bit younger than Eddie, not by much. So I can see why on paper he would be the favourite going into this fight. So, I mean, again, let's look at the transformation here on the left to the right. I mean, on the left there, that was probably taken maybe the week of the 501 kilogram deadlift world record. And on the right here, that's quite a recent picture. And it's just amazing, that transformation. But both of these guys have no excuse. If they've got money, they've got resources, they've got time, they should be able to get in good condition for this fight. But I think out of the two of them, Hafthor has done a much better job than Eddie in terms of getting in good shape, good conditioning. I don't think he has the same strength as Eddie, but he's definitely in much better condition than Eddie in terms of his cardiovascular. And as you can see here, if you had said to me 3 years ago that you'll be seeing hafthor bjornsson jumping rope in 2022, I would laugh. I wouldn't take you seriously. You can see a bit of bitch tits from the old steroid days there, but it's very impressive. I don't think he's probably done this since the basketball days. So I'm impressed. It's good to see. But yeah, now here's some of the bag work that he's doing. You can just see the contrast between him and Eddie. The punches are weak. Very weak, but in terms of his footwork, his movement, definitely much better than Eddie. But in terms of that strength of the punch, nowhere near what Eddie has. And I don't know whether he's holding back here. This is the other thing. Maybe this is just him going at 50%. He doesn't want to show all his cards. He doesn't want to, you know, lose the poker face. So he's just really giving 50%. He doesn't want to show what he's actually capable of. We don't know. But I'm just saying that based on what I've seen from Hafthor over the past year of training, this really seems to be a reoccurring theme of all his footage. He's got good endurance, good movement, he's got good footwork, but in terms of punches, pretty weak. I mean, the Devon fight, that was just embarrassing, beating up an old man who had barely had any training for boxing. He's a professional arm wrestler, so it's not even close to his sport. It's not like he was coming from MMA to boxing, or you know, judo to boxing, or any sort of thing like that. It's a completely different sport that he has spent his whole life perfecting. The part of his professional life as an arm wrestler. So I'm not even including that in here because it was just, you know, Thor beating up an old man, really. So on the topic of that, here we go. Some of his sparring footage. When we cross-compare it to Eddie's, the punches are pretty weak, in all fairness. But again, I don't know whether this is on purpose, this is deliberate. But in terms of his footwork, how quick he moves around, his speed, it's just so much better than Eddie. And I'm not a boxing pro here. I've only ever done, you know, kickboxing, and that was so long ago, and I only did it for about a year. So I'm no expert here, but just looking at it, you know, you can see that Hafthor is far more agile on his feet. He's definitely in better conditioning, but in terms of explosive punches, it's pretty weak. This guy, whereas Eddie Hall was pretty much dominating his other training coach, who was probably about the same, same height and same age as this guy, and when you compare the two, it's night and day, to be honest with you. But Hafthor looks good. He looks quick. You know, he's definitely not looking slow like I thought he would. I really never thought Hafthor would get in this condition. I never thought it would be possible for him to move like this. Again here with a very small man, probably about 5'10", 5'8". It's not really helpful, but look at him there. A little bit quicker. These punches are a little bit faster, a little bit more explosive. So and this is just him punching a little kid. So deadlifting, I haven't seen him post any sort of resistance training, weightlifting, for a good 3 months, maybe 4 months. But this was last year, you know, towards the end of last year, so maybe mid last year to the end of last year. But I think Hafthor has said publicly that he's not focusing on resistance weightlifting at all. He's focusing more on just sparring, pad work, and conditioning and cardio. So I think that's why we probably haven't seen him do any weightlifting. But this was a pretty impressive deadlift. I mean, the bench press, yikes. I mean, in the old days, that would be probably his first warm-up set, and now it's pretty much his max set. So it's safe to say that Hafthor's probably lost pretty much all of his strength. Now, this was a long time ago, this clip. This was just probably when he first sort of started getting ready for the training for the fight. But still, it's good to see, you know, he's definitely a much leaner, not as lean as he is now, but showing that he can still deadlift. I'm sure he can still deadlift more than most people who are watching this video. But yeah, just to really show some of his weightlifting training, not too much. And this was his this was probably last April, to be honest with you. This was a long time ago. Just doing some squat work, but I reckon Hafthor's probably only doing about 1 or 2 days weightlifting each week, and a very light weight probably. It's not a priority, and I think he's made that clear from day one that he's not going to focus on resistance weightlifting. That's not something that he wants to focus on. So yeah, at least he can still squat, he can still bench, he can still deadlift. So anyway, all very interesting. For me personally, going into this fight, if you had asked me about 6-7 months ago, I would have said Eddie, without shadow of a doubt, will knock Hafthor out in the first couple of rounds, or Hafthor will just burn out and he won't make it to the end. But having seen all the progress that Hafthor's made, his conditioning, his shape, just how fit and healthy he's looking now, it's a 50-50 for me. I think it's going to go down to the last round. It's going to come down to points, the judges, what they think. I don't know. It could potentially even be a draw. I mean, honestly, I think Eddie's betting on knocking Hafthor out in the first few rounds, and I think Hafthor's betting on Eddie burning out in the first couple of rounds and then just going to the end with better conditioning, better endurance. So I don't know. I really honestly don't know. I'm just going to watch the fight and see what happens. That's my strategy. But if you want to comment below on who you think's going to win, feel free to do so. Have a great day and enjoy the fight, and have a great weekend.